I went for a run this morning with a trusted friend, and at some point in the run, we found ourselves sharing stories about personal failures. They were stories about falling really short of who we believe that God has created us to be. But they were also stories of circumstances and choices that have shaped us, that have contributed to who we have become. And though we would do things differently now, it's also clear with perspective that those choices, those circumstances and mistakes, they were formative. And perhaps they were even necessary to our journey. And we can see that now because of the perspective that we have looking back, the distance that we have from those events. Perspective matters. Perspective is a gift that allows us to look back and consider who we were trying to be, and where God was at work along the way. One of the gifts of Scripture is the perspective that it provides us. It allows us this window into the lives and circumstances of particular people and peoples over the course of history. And as we read and those stories unfold, we read with the knowledge of how it all turns out. We do so with the knowledge of God's activity, how God was at work, of God's faithfulness, of God's presence, and of God's ultimate redemptive work in Jesus Christ. For example, we read the story of Abraham and Isaac, knowing that God is going to protect Isaac. We read the story of the destruction of the first temple, knowing that they're going to get to come back to Jerusalem and build a second temple. We read the story of God choosing the people of Israel, knowing that was just a part of the process of God seeking to redeem all people. Perspective matters. Perspective is a gift, and it is one of the gifts of Scripture. I want to invite you to join us this Sunday as we dig into Scripture together in the book of Isaiah. And perhaps in reading of God's faithfulness in Scripture to particular people and peoples, perhaps in reading of God's persistent presence with people, we might be reminded that God is still faithful and that God is still present with us now in spite of current circumstances. Until then, be safe, be well, and we'll see you on Sunday.